This is a quick video to answer a question: could producing gas locally or domestically increase the amount of net zero infrastructure like rooftop solar panels and batteries and electric vehicles that we see in the country? The way this would work is that generally people are able to get rooftop solar panels and batteries and electric cars if they've got some sort of smart home electricity use tariff, maybe a time of use tariff, and these are brought about mostly by smaller or more innovative supply companies. So these are the companies that buy electricity and gas on your behalf and that you pay for your electricity and gas at home. Now, the big companies that used to run this didn't used to be very innovative in supply models. So for example, you paid for your electricity and gas after you'd used it, and that meant that they had to borrow the money to buy it for you. And then there was a wave of smaller, more innovative companies, and that's why you started having to pay for your electricity and gas, or had the option to prepay, especially if you weren't on a meter. You had the weren't on a stick. You had the option to prepay your electricity and gas into a credit account on your supplier's website, and that was because then they wouldn't have to borrow money to buy electricity and gas on your behalf. So that's like one of the customer innovations that the small companies were able to provide. And basically, we had an environment where these small companies were able to innovate because there was a low barrier of entry to the market. So you could get small suppliers representing maybe tens or hundreds of thousands of customers and not millions like the large six used to do. Essentially what happened is that a load of those shut down during the energy crisis that happened after the invasion of Ukraine because the gas price went up. And there's a regulation that suppliers have to hedge their gas 6 months in advance, which means they have to pay for gas supplies at least 6 months in advance. Mostly that's because we don't produce a lot of gas locally and we don't have loads of gas storage, or the gas storage that we do have, we want to make sure that it's full. So the people that are in charge of actually buying and importing gas, which is the suppliers effectively, they need to have that gas arranged months in advance. So when you hear politicians say we're covered for this winter or gas supplies are good, it's because private companies, suppliers, have bought gas on behalf of their customers and it's on the way or it's in storage in the country. So basically there was a rule that said that these suppliers had to be hedged in gas 6 months out, so they had to buy gas 6 months ahead. That was quite taxing for small suppliers, but it was okay. But as soon as the gas price went really high, those suppliers would no longer be able to afford to hedge 6 months out, and so they had to fold. Another reason was the price cap, which the Conservative government brought in to protect poor consumers, which meant that they couldn't charge over a certain average amount to the average household, and that led to also every customer basically representing a loss during those 1.5 years when gas prices were very high. So that's the reason all those suppliers folded, and we're back to essentially Big Six, with Octopus Energy hoovering up a lot of the smaller companies who were innovating in supply. So they're now one of the only companies that actually innovates on the supply side and gives you flexible tariffs and allows you the opportunity, or creates the business case for you personally, to have rooftop solar and batteries and electric vehicles. I think obviously there should be more suppliers doing this so that Octopus doesn't have a monopoly, but that's where we're at right now. Octopus is backed by large amounts of money internationally, so they are less at risk of going out of business because of a couple of years of high gas prices, for example. Producing gas nationally or domestically could definitely improve the amount of gas that is able for purchase by small suppliers, but it would have to go hand in hand with some government scheme to make sure that gas that is produced locally has an incentive to be bought locally as well. And that's where a national energy company like GB Energy, like Keir Starmer's Labour Party is very keen on, could actually do some really helpful stuff. They could actually buy gas nationally, or at least buy a large proportion of gas nationally using the country's credit line essentially, and therefore reduce the risk of gas prices going high, which would provide a safety net for smaller companies who are generally better at dealing with customers and coming up with innovative customer measures to get people to engage in electricity. That would allow those smaller companies to be able to be suppliers without the risk of going bust. And this is the sort of thing that happens in India. The Indian government subsidises the cost of gas across the entire network because lots of their industry and now lots of their transport and even personal transport within cities is actually powered by natural gas instead of what we call fuel or petrol or diesel. So when gas is strategically important to your economy, it makes sense for the government to buy gas on the country's behalf from international suppliers. But if there was domestic suppliers, that could be a good way of doing it, because the government could offer them incentives and tax breaks in order to secure a good price for gas into at least 6 months or a year ahead.